hear a pin drop right now. So good morning and welcome back to Youth Locken. Those of you that watched the video last week will know that I was trying to get a shot of those pines on the other side. When I got here last time, the lock was semi-frozen over and the reflections of the trees just weren't right. There's been a thaw over the last few days, so the conditions now are perfect. I've actually taken the shot this morning before this drizzle rolled in, so I've got what I wanted. But just to quickly talk about the composition, because it does break the rules of composition, and I know some of you have a problem with that. I've got the trees 50% above that central line and the reflection 50% below. The central line is formed up of a little plant called purple moorgrass. Now, as the name doesn't suggest, in wintertime purple moorgrass takes on this beautiful bronze golden appearance, and I've got that line running right through the centre of the frame. Now, I, like a lot of people, a lot of photographers, I use the rules of composition as and when I feel I need to, and generally speaking those rules fall into place without even thinking about it, but I am aware when I break those rules. And for me this morning, that shot really lends itself to breaking the rules. Now, some of you might prefer that line to be slightly lower so it sits on the third, but for me I like the reflected trees equal amounts top and bottom. Now, before I put that shot on, I just want to quickly talk about this morning. What I've decided to do today, with the weather being as it is, we've got a lot of overcast light, lots of clouds rolling in. As I've driven here this morning, there's been patches of heavy rain, patches of drizzle, just all sorts of conditions. So I'm going to try and go for something a little bit different today. Usually I either go for the big scene or very intimate close-up macro shots. Now, I've got the idea of wanting to shoot some woodland, but not the big woodland vistas. Today I'm going to be looking for somewhere that falls in between the two, between macro and the bigger vistas. It's going to be quite difficult, quite challenging. I've got in my mind the type of shot that I want to get, but until I find it, I can't really explain what I'm looking for. So I'm going to pack the camera up now and go and try and find the next image. So that was 4 days ago, 4 days. I came down to the wood from the lock that you've just seen me at, and the heavens just opened and the rain continued to get worse and worse. So rather than get all the equipment wet and damaged and risk having to shell out lots and lots of money for new gear, I decided to pack up and go home and sit it out. So I've been sat at the cottage for the best part of 4 days waiting for conditions to improve. And this morning the weather forecast has given me a 1 hour weather window, and I've literally been sat in the car at the top of the hill there for the best part of an hour waiting for the rain to stop. And I have to say the weather forecast was pretty good. It stopped right when it said it would, but it's going to start again in an hour, so I've got to be quick. So I just want to explain the woodland that I've come to, that I've found. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't know whether you can see in the background, got these beautiful silver birch trees, and we've got on the periphery some fairly mature Scots pines, and they're all sat in this bit of a depression. It's like a microclimate, because if you look closely, certainly I can show you by the tree behind me, you've got this lovely oak moss lichen, and it is literally dripping from all the trees, especially the silver birches, and it's almost like a magical, mysterious fairy tale woodland, and you just can't help but want to do it justice. And I'm desperate to get some photographs of it, but part of me does think that to really make the best of it, I need some atmosphere, some atmospheric conditions, and I've definitely not got that today. So I've got it, I'm up against it, but I'm determined to get some images before I go, or before the rain comes at least. So I'm not going to jabber on for much longer. I'm going to get the camera and the tripod. I'm going to have a quick walk round. So I think I've found a shot. It's been quite difficult. I've tried for a good while to find something in amongst where the birches are, where the main bulk of all those lichens are, and whilst it's really nice to the eye, it's quite difficult to find something that just gels from a photographic point of view. And the main problem I've got is that wherever I look I've got sky creeping in, and in order to crop that out I'm losing a lot of the interest in terms of the lichen that's on the branches. There is some nice rusty coloured bracken that's died, and that's quite nice, and I've tried to weave that into one or two shots, but again I'm not completely 100% satisfied. So as I've walked away from that area I've come to this little spot here, and this is the transition between where the birches finish and the main Caledonian pine forest starts. And what I'm using essentially is this last birch tree on the left hand side as my footer. I think I'm going to do this as a panoramic, so I've got my nodal rail attached and I'm all levelled up, although albeit the camera is angled ever so slightly downwards to take advantage of the ground flora. The main reason I like this is because we've got some nice contrast. At the foot of the tree you've got some remnants of bilberry shrubs. They've all been nibbled by the deer by the looks of things, and there's certainly no flowers or berries at this time of year. So that's providing my footer, and that's providing my left hand side of my frame. Now that's going to take you into the forest beyond, and I'm trying to create that mysterious look about the forest. So what I'll probably do is I'll darken the background gradually as it goes further and further into the woodland. That's my thinking, and then have this nice significant bit of information in terms of the birch tree at the footer on the left hand side to just take you through that journey. I'm all set up. I've not chosen my aperture yet, but I'm probably going to go for something in the region of f13, something like that, or maybe even f16, but it's all ready to go, so I'm going to get the camera rigged up and take that now. So just in case you was wondering whether a nodal rail is something you might want to consider, I'll just prove how useful they can be in situations like this one that we've got here. For the most part, if you're doing panoramics of very, very distant scenes, you don't really need to use one. The overlaps are not that difficult to align, and you don't have many stitching problems. But in this instance, because I've got objects that are very, very close to the camera, there are some problems that you will encounter, and I'll demonstrate that now. The pine tree on the left hand side I've aligned in front of another pine tree behind it, but just offset, and what I've created is a gap between the two. Now what generally happens, and I'll illustrate that now, I'll put this camera on record so I can show you. So you see the pine tree at the front and the pine tree at the back in the centre. I'll move the camera to the left hand side. Now if you watch the gap between the two, as I pan to the left, so everything moves over to the right, that gap stays exactly the same. It never alters. You can see as I pan back, it's exactly the same again. Now then, if I unclip this and move the camera to what would have been essentially its ordinary position, it's not a huge difference, but it does create problems with stitching. So I'll start at this end. Now you can see the gap on the right hand side there between the two pines. As I move round, you can see it's already increasing in size, stretching. So whilst it's only very, very small, it's enough to cause stitching problems later in post-process. So again, if I just move it that way, you'll see that the front pine is starting to move in front of the one behind it, and the gap's getting smaller. So there we have it. Nodal rails are useful, but generally speaking, you only really need them when you've got objects that are very, very close to the camera. So I found another potential scene, and I'm really quite excited by this one. As I was walking through here, and I'm literally only 30 metres from where I just was speaking to you, I came across this, and I'll talk you through what I'm seeing. On the right hand side of my frame, you've got this lovely silver birch with its typical drooping branches, and it's all cloaked in that lovely oak moss lichen. On the left hand side, holding the left hand side of the frame, is a carbon copy of this tree, but it's fallen over, and that makes the whole thing a lot more dynamic. Crucially, and most important part of this image, certainly for me, is the tree in the middle. That holds it all together. That creates this lovely fan shape that you've got in the overall scene. Without that, you wouldn't know whether to look at the tree on the left or the tree on the right. I think it's a real beautiful shot. It just needs the right conditions, which I certainly haven't got today. Now, in terms of problems, there's problems with most shots. No shot's ever perfect in my mind. I've got some birch regrowth on this side here, and that's making this bottom left-hand side a little bit untidy. There's one particular tree just there, sapling, and that was growing right in front of the camera, so I've pushed that back and I've just rested my bag on it just so I can get a clean shot. You could be saying, well, why don't you move over to that side? But the problem with that is, as you move over to the right, the tree in the centre becomes off-centre and it's hidden by the tree on the right, so you can't do that. The absolute crucial spot is where the camera is now to get it all lined up perfectly. You've just got to deal with that bit of untidiness on that left-hand side. My last problem, which I can deal with, is the light coming through the canopy there. I can get rid of that in post-processing, but overall, I think this is the best shot of the day so far. So sadly, it's time to wrap this video up. This week overall has not been overly productive, I have to say, but if you like me and you love Scotland, you won't mind. The photographs come secondary. Just being here, immersing yourself in all this beautiful scenery and nature comes first and foremost above everything else. So I hope you like the film, I hope you like the images. Leave some comments below, let me know what you think. Give me a big thumbs up if you like the video. And don't forget, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to see more videos. And if you want notifications every time a new film's uploaded, don't forget to ring that bell. So literally just walking up this path, and it just goes to show that you've just got to keep your eyes peeled at all times. I would have almost missed this had I not just glanced to the right at just the right time. And I've said this so many times, you've just got to be looking all around you. So from the path I spotted silver birch there, and because we're in this elevated position, we're in the canopy almost, and you can really see all that lovely oak moss lichen. It's much thicker higher up. I've positioned the camera so that we've got the fork coming out the bottom of the frame, and it splits and you've got all the aerial branches covered in lichens, and it's a simple abstract shot. I'm on f11, 2-second timer, 100 ISO. I've just got to wait for the wind to stop. It's crucial that those branches are still. And there we go. That really is the end of the film. So until next time, bye for now.